Welcome to another episode of Gino Thanks. And I know that we've been a little behind on this, but I have Belle back to discuss our movie choice. What's up, Belle?
How's it going?
Going good, going good. I was actually really excited to talk about this movie because it's one of those like I always forget about how much I love this movie, and especially like the time we're in now, I feel like it's even more relevant being around election time.
Absolutely.
But so let's just get started right away. I mean,
Okay.
what did you think of the movie? First of all, we are gonna spoil it for you, but
Yes.
all right. So what do you think?
Review will contain many spoilers. So from the trailer, it kind of gives you a synopsis of what the film is about. So you already know that it's about a dinner party. You know what I mean? But the context of the film just goes so much deeper. And I just really enjoyed how the thing is what first shook me was the fact that this came out in the early 90s.
That's what I'm saying, and it's so relevant today, right?
And a lot of the elements in this are very relevant to today, and it's almost scary how similar, a lot of those elements are. And I think one of the main takeaways that I got from that movie was that as a society, we cannot control or change the opinions of others, no matter how right wing, left wing, upside down, left, right they may be. How do we live in a society where we're able to coexist with people that have these radical views of the world and the society that we live in as a whole? I loved how they kind of really went there with each and every character that you come in contact with, especially the dinner guest. You at first you're just like, oh, this person is going to have some crazy thought process, which in the film makes that person a candidate to drink the red wine, as they put it in the film. And that's all I'll say. But it kind of makes you really think, there's hate everywhere. You can't escape it. But in trying to be right, how do we skew hate in trying to be right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's hard. It's a tough one. And that's why I love this film so much, because it really makes you, it makes you kind of reflect on your views that you have been raised to believe. And your neighbor may have extremely different views. Does that make you right and them wrong? Or does that make, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But what I was getting from it, first of all, I would say it's interesting that we both said like, oh yeah, it's still relevant to today because of the issues they're talking about. I'm not sure if that necessarily means like, oh, are you right or are you wrong? I feel like to me, it just means they've been using the same kind of tactics to divide us this whole time.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're not even scratching this yet, but we'll get there. But I loved how this was all orchestrated, and I think it also plays into the power of the media, and that's something that I really highlighted back in my undergrad when I was working on my thesis for undergrad. The media has the power to make the power to make you believe that something is real, even though it's not. The media has the power to change your perception of your own reality, even though you're living in it every day. how can this person on the blue screen tell me what to think, what to eat, what to wear, when to wear it, who to hate, who to love? But it does every single day. It's the most powerful entity on the face of the planet, the media. And I loved how they used that also when they were highlighting the central character of all this hate. And I don't know about you, man, but I was like, that's Trump written all over it. And one thing one thing that I took from the film and a question that I had was, and I said this out loud, at the end of the film, I said, if you could have dinner with Donald Trump, would you do it? Would you do it?
They kind of answered, I feel like what you call Trump in the movie, what they asked him, they asked him, like, if you could go back in time. I feel like he had the perfect answer for that.
He had the perfect
the best answer out of all of them. And he was the villain.
Answer. Yes, exactly. But again, also, it's not to say that he was the central reason why all these other people, these other characters had the views that they had. You had the misogynist, you had the racist, you had the girl that was well, I'm glad they didn't give her the wine, but remember the girl that was like, everybody should be a virgin.
Yeah.
Sex education,
And that's what I'm saying. The writers did a great job of like making each dinner guest a separate issue.
Right. Exactly. And because these are all things that we as a society debate about every single day. And it's very interesting because I have a friend, the first victim reminded me of my friend, my good friend who is a veteran. And I asked him, I said, what are your views on Donald Trump? And he said, if I say anything hateful or bad-mouthing about Donald Trump, I would be saying something bad about my employer. And I'm like, damn.
I see.
That's heavy. It's almost like you're working for the tyranny.
I mean, in a way, aren't we all? Because we're all getting money technically from the government. The government provides these businesses with the money to be able to pay us, right? So, I mean, he's kind of all of our boss. He's all of our boss. He's the boss to all of us.
Right, but when you're in the army, you work directly for him for the defense of,
Oh, I see. You're
you know
right.
What I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's more specific.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like, when they graduate, you got a president. So still, it's just it's interesting because that character brought that perspective that we as outsiders who have not served in the front lines may not understand, because that's another thing as well. Experience changes your perception of people and things and places. I mean, I know for me, when I was younger, I thought being in Southeast DC was cool. I thought you were kind of you were a little kind of cool if you hung out in Southeast, because that was like, okay, well, you can't mess with me because I got people down in Southeast, But now that I'm older, if you associate me with or anything with Southeast DC, I would be highly offended, because you see that it's from experience. It's not the ideal place.
DC's coming up though, right?
Like now, but you maybe like 10 years ago, no. So, this is pre-gentrification Southeast I'm talking about.
I see. No, but that's what I'm saying. You're talking about now. If you're associated, you don't want to be associated with it, but it's not a problem.
No, I don't want to be associated with America, but that's a whole nother.
True. But also, you're right. That's a whole other topic. But I wanted to kind of like bring it back to what you were talking about. because you were talking about, who's right, who's wrong, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, I just want to ask you what you think. Is it acceptable to be tolerant of the intolerant, or should you be intolerant of the intolerant?
That's a good question. That's a very good question, and I think that's a question that should be asked more often in higher stakes situations than Gino thanks. But
I'm trying to get the word out there. That's what I'm
I hear
saying.
you. I hear you. If I could just take a second to kind of sit on that for a second. To be tolerant, well, I think we can do our best to try to understand that we may not always be seen, heard, understood, and that there are people out there that have opposing views. So I'm going to conclude that by saying yes. I think in order to have hot, you got to have cold. In order to go up, you got to go down. There's going to be left wing, there's going to be right wing, and I think that's just kind of what keeps the ebb and flow of a society. Because if everybody thought the same, if everybody spoke the same, it wouldn't, first of all, it wouldn't be interesting, and second of all, we wouldn't be able to defend our views, because everybody would just be so like, yeah, I agree, okay, yep, abortion is cool. Go ahead, do it.
Wait, so you're saying you should be intolerant?
I think you should be tolerant
Oh,
of
you
the
should be tolerant.
intolerant. I think you should be tolerant of the intolerant, because the differences is what keeps the flow going. The opposing views is what keeps the conversation alive.
But being tolerant of the intolerant means that, potentially some of them could be. You're right. It keeps the opposite view alive. But what they're trying to do is break that down so that there is no more of their opposing view.
Absolutely. And in the film, I think they kind of come to the realization towards the end of the film that, no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be somebody that is going to think differently from you. And then at what point does, for example, our only African American character, at what point does your obsession with being the moral one, the right one, doing the right way, the right thing, seeking justice for the people, when do you all of a sudden become the villain in trying to be right? Like, I'm
Exactly.
pretty sure, like in this, and it reminds me of the Inquisition. How many of those priests and deacons, or whoever administered the torture and interrogation of people that did not follow the Catholic faith, how many of those people truly believed that what they were doing was right for the greater good of God, even though they were committing atrocities against entire communities because they didn't believe in what they believed in?
Yeah, they were forcing them to believe in their religion.
To convert it to Catholicism. But in their mind, this is for the greater good of God and the people. They need to get down on their knees and take communion every day. They need to understand that Mary is the mother of God, and we should pray to her as well. Well, guess what, dude? I'm glad that died out, but I think it's just important to realize that people will think that their right is an excuse to be radical, and that's where we draw the line.
But
does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. but kind of at the same time, it's like you don't want anyone to be radical. That makes it boring too, right?
That's true. That's true. I think this, and then the central character, when we kind of, I didn't bring up any quotes. I probably should have brought up some quotes, but the whole time we are just, the more and more we hear this guy, it's just like, I can't believe you think this way. I can't believe you're saying this. But then when you get him down to dinner, he's like, it's all for ratings.
I mean, honestly, I'm sure that's part of it, but at the same time, I feel like he's one of those people that he always has the right answer. So whether or not it was offer ratings or not, that's what he's going to tell that crowd. And then for the crowd that really truly stands by him, he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I meant that 100%.
Right.
First
That's
of all,
true.
I just want to spoil, I'm going to spoil the ending right now by my question that I'm going to ask you. But
Okay.
first of all, I'm going to say that ending was amazing.
It was.
Right? But I'm a
It's
little
awesome.
confused. I'm a little confused. All right? Because he said that he didn't pour their wine. So did he have his own? You know what I'm saying? That's also a possibility.
He said that he didn't pour the bad wine.
Yeah. Right? So it's possible that he was doing the same shit all along. You know what I'm saying? And he just decided.
It could also have been implied
that he did it, that he had his own wine or whatever.
How do we know that they didn't realize when they were in the kitchen, that they didn't realize that, hey, we've got 9 bodies in the backyard, dude. We've got the head honcho here in our living room that has figured us out. How do we know that they didn't make a suicide pact?
They didn't know that he figured them out, did they?
I thought they had a hitch.
Because he only figured it out when they all left the room. Remember, they were all kind of going crazy, and so they left the dining table. And
I know, but then there's like a cut scene. So how do we know that they collectively didn't do that themselves? Because we only see them toast. We don't know who pours.
No, because he said, he was like, "Don't worry, I didn't pour the bad wine." So he did. He is the one that poured it for everyone.
Oh, that's true. Well, he clearly lied. If that's the truth.
And I was
wow.
I need to double.
Okay, so
I need to double check. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the from what I saw, and maybe they also didn't like exactly make it clear because they didn't do a close up, but it didn't look like they emptied any part of the bad wine, that bottle. And also, all their wine glasses were full, so that they would have had to empty out that whole bottle. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes me think he had his own. Or it's possible maybe he poured the good wine and then just put a little bit of drops of the bad wine in the other ones. But you're right. I feel like toward the end, it's also unclear. And maybe they made it unclear on purpose. But when he does say, "Hey, guys, I poured the wine," you're right. It looks like they know that he poisoned them. And they still decided to drink it anyway because they knew at that point that was the right
they were done.
To do. Yeah.
It was a wrap.
Yeah, because they became what they hated so much, in a way.
Right. That's a good point. And it's crazy because I'm reading here on the Wikipedia. It says, a closing shot of the painting portrays all 5 students collapsed on the floor with Norman standing next to the blue bottle smoking his cigar. The film ends with the audio of Norman speculating about his possible presidential bid to a cheering crowd, pledging to do the people's will and describing himself as the people's humble servant. In the closing voiceover, Norman explains his reluctance to accept his fans' urging to take on the responsibility of the highest office in the land by saying, "I already have." Could that not be foreshadowing for Donald Trump's stealing of the office?
I mean, do you
Doing
think
what he must.
they foreshadowed it from the 90s? I guess that's true. He was kind of talking about, he started talking about that stuff in the 90s. You're right. You're right.
Doing what he has to do to get that seat.
I bet you Trump watched this video and was like, "That's what I'm going to do."
He took notes. He took notes. He absolutely took notes.
Because this is around the time he was doing cameos in like Home Alone and stuff, right? So it I'm sure he, and I don't know, but that's also the reason why, like, I'm trying to figure out why this movie is so hard to find, right? Like,
it's hard to find because I think for the times it was way too controversial. Because the 90s, it was a little more easygoing.
Really?
In the early 90s. I mean, from what I understand, we were kids, dude. Look
at all the movies that we were talking about. Yeah, the movie Kids that came out before this, right? Like,
oh, so yeah. Well, Kids was the 90s too.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think this is you know what it is? I think this movie would have opened people's minds, and they don't want to open people's minds.
Oh, of course not. And I think that's another reason why it wasn't so broadly shown, because it would be considered an art house film because it's not entertaining. You know what I mean? It's not fun.
What? You know, it is. What are you talking about?
It's fun to those of us that see these kinds of films as thought-provoking. Like, it's too thought-provoking. And I think that's probably why it didn't get as much widespread, stuffs.
And also,
Cameron Diaz, I love it.
Right? Exactly. She's the best. But I feel like also maybe they made a poor choice with the title of the movie. Because now every time you search it, you just see a whole bunch of religious stuff. Exactly.
But at the same time, it makes sense because at the Last Supper, Jesus proclaims, "One of you will betray me."
True.
It just is a heavy movie. It's a heavy movie, and I absolutely loved it. I would see it again. But one thing I will say, one thing I don't understand, the girl that was the girlfriend of the Jewish guy, what was her character? Like, I didn't understand a lot of her scenes because it's just like,
give me a specific scene. I don't know. You mean like she was kind of pointless in the movie? Is what you're saying?
I think so. She was like really, like, after they killed the first victim, she got all sexy and like horny, and you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of
maybe they were also trying to show the fact that sometimes even if you might say you disagree with some, like, obviously people are going to be against killing people, but then you realize that she was kind of into it when she saw her boyfriend kill the guy.
True.
So that was the beginning of it, and then you see toward the end what that led to. It's like when they were kind of turning against each other.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's where it starts with that girl. Like, oh, she was like, oh, I like it. So
yeah,
how good of a person are you really?
Because murder turns you on, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's a quote from Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, writing that although it is too long and repetitive, which I disagree with.
Not. Yeah, I don't think that was enough.
Disagree.
I think they needed more dinner guests.
He appreciated its lack of partisanship. He described the film as a brave effort in a timid time, a Swiftian attempt to slap us all in the face and get us to admit that our own freedoms depend precisely on those of our neighbors, our opponents, and yes, our enemies. That's it.
That's a good review. I like that review.
That's it. And Roger Ebert gave it 3 out. Yeah.
So I 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. What do you give it?
I give it a 10, dude.
Really?
10.
That's
10.
I was gonna say 9 because last time you said something was a 9, I was like, wow, really?
What
I
was the film that I gave a 9? Oh my God, I'm so generous. Do I not have what it takes to be a film critic? Because I'm just too nice.
no, what were we talking about that you gave a 9? What did we watch before this?
Uh, it's been so many cuties. Was it
Cuties?
cuties?
You gave Cuties a 9?
No, I didn't give cuties a 9. Oh my God, no, I gave it like a 5. Um,
Cuties, Antebellum. Did I pick the last movie?
I think you did.
I forgot what the fuck it was.
But we've been watching too many movies, dude.
Oh my god. I'm trying to think
Spree,
now.
Spree.
Spree, you gave it a 9.
I gave it a 9, and so
This
I
is
give this
this
a.
is this is way better than Spree.
This is a 10. This is a 10. But and to be honest with you, okay, Spree is a 9 because of its modern taste.
True.
10. I mean, Last Supper is a 10 because it's from the past.
And it's timeless.
And it's exactly. So.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like they need to. They might need to remake this and make Trump like the character.
I agree. And here's an idea: make Trump a black guy.
True.
I feel like with film and cinematography, you can kind of do whatever you want, and within reason of censorship, of course. But I think it would be very interesting to see a remake on this with a more diverse cast.
I don't think they ever would though, because like I said, they don't want people's minds to be open. And if it is gonna be a remake, I see it being like one of those Netflix, horrible remakes.
Yeah, or Amazon Prime only.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna be good. But they need these writers. They need these same exact writers. The writers are genius.
An Asian guy, a Spanish girl, a black guy, African. Like there's so many all the different races and nationalities sitting at the table, and at the center of it all is a radical black guy, but
black Republican.
Right, he's a black Republican, and he's light skinned, of course. Colorism. Come on, guys.
True.
And I think films like this can really go far, but it's just censorship. That's the only issue.
And that's why I wanted to talk about it on here, like, so we can spread the word, especially now in the time of so much like hate in the world. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I feel like it would be a good lesson. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into like political beliefs or anything, but for the most part, like, would you say you are you more liberal or more conservative?
I'm gonna say I'm definitely liberal. Definitely more liberal.
Right, but you're like a different liberal. You're like on the nice liberal side. Right now, I feel like there's more. You see, a lot of times people like to criticize the right for being the intolerant ones. And even earlier in our, in our question, when I was asking, so should you be tolerant of the intolerant? Like in your mind, I mean, in my mind, that's what I was thinking. But tell me if you were thinking like. I was talking about should we be tolerant or intolerant of the right? Is that what you were thinking?
The alt-right?
No, of the right, period.
We should be tolerant.
But I'm saying, is that how you registered my question? Like when I was asking it, that's what you thought I was talking about? And that is what most people think about. But now if you think about it, I feel like it's easy to see that a lot of people on the left are more intolerant than some people on the right. You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are ready to attack those that don't agree, and I think that's what this society is about. We're on the ready to attack the opposer because it's like, I don't know. Like I said, it's intolerance, but at the same time, it's not being able to handle that opposing view in a manner that, I don't know, I guess leaves some room for respect, because that's the thing. We're just not respecting each other's views. And it doesn't necessarily make you a bad person because you have differing views, But it does make you an asshole when you start, you know, like using insults and, just different ways of spewing hate.
But that's what I'm saying.
There's a way to express your opposing views without making it so hateful. That's all I'm saying.
So who do you think is more hateful at this point?
Well, disclosure, I don't pay attention enough to politics to really have a concrete, solid opinion. But I'll say the right, like the alt-right, like the
alt-right. That's different. I'm not even talking about like the alt-right.
I'm talking about like the radicals, like the
I mean, and that's the thing. There's radicals on both sides, and I actually like what he said in the movie. I feel like is something that I say often. It's like I totally like I understand the intolerance, because not that I necessarily like 100% support it, but I totally understand, because what he was saying in the movie is like you kind of have to get to the extremes in order for people to be able to meet in the middle.
Yep, I agree.
I feel like at the same time, it's like the people that claim they are the righteous ones are losing sight of who they think they are.
I agree, because that's what I'm saying. Like in the obsession with being righteous and right, it can just lead to an extreme, and I think that is just on both sides. You can oppose without being hateful. You can express your opinions without throwing insults. There's I don't know. I just feel like if we grow up in a society that values education and knowing how to speak to one another, we can talk and have different views without it being so combative.
And I agree with that, but at the
that's
same
what I'm seeing on the news. I'm seeing fingers. That's not how you debate. But I guess right now we don't have very good examples of debate, because these debates are a mess.
Oh yeah, you watched it yesterday?
No. After the first one, I was done.
I see.
Quit.
Well, I did watch it, but we'll get into that when I do my other episode. I talked to Albert J about the politics a lot, so on Sunday we have scheduled to talk about the debates. But I want to just kind of go back. We do need to like wrap up in a little bit, but I kind of do want to go back to what you were saying about, people. I don't know. Speaking of Black Republicans, I wanted to bring up Kanye. You know what I'm saying? Don't give me that face. He's you can write him in Maryland. He got
I know.
But so everyone knows he put on the MAGA hat. He was talking to Trump, right? And people hated him for that, right? But later on, it came out that he was just doing that because he was like kind of faking his friendship to help Kim Kardashian reach out to him to be able to pardon all these prisoners, etc., that were on death row, right?
Really?
And so I feel like that's kind of the strategy people have to go with, and people can't see. I hear a lot about like, oh, voting for a candidate isn't marrying your choice. It's like a chess move. And I feel like people don't realize that these are certain chess moves. Like in the movie, the main guy, I forget his name in the movie, like, the one that you said was Trump. He had a plan, and he kind of infiltrated their system by like befriending them, right? But then he ended up killing them at the end. And I feel like that's basically the method. So a lot of these Democrats that are now becoming Republican, I feel like in my mind, it seems like that's what they're doing. They're trying to infiltrate the system. And once they get to a point where they can do something about it, like kill them, not really kill them, metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like it is especially important to be tolerant of people, because you don't know what the real plan is. You only see what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
You only see what you're getting, but you don't know backstory. I think is that what you're trying to get? Like
exactly.
Like
I don't
it's
know.
almost like that saying like meet people where they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it too deep.
No, I kind of get what you're saying with that quote, and I agree, but it's like people are gonna gain more enemies by not trying to be more understanding of what people are trying to do. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's the whole point, is they're trying to separate us. So let's stick it to the man by being like, oh no, we're gonna be friends anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe I'm definitely generalizing it too much. It's hard to explain everything I want to say.
I understand. I think, and I completely agree with you. I think everybody that has opposing views of things, whatever topic it may be, should be able to sit down to dinner and talk about something else. You know what I mean? We gotta live in this world together. We gotta make this money together. We gotta feed our children. We gotta send them to good schools. You know what I mean? If we're so focused on just what you think is right and what you think is right, like, come on, is it really helping us get out of the middle class? No. No.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the whole point of this two-party system. Like, to keep, I don't know. They just want to make it seem like we have a choice when really we don't.
We don't. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the point of all the hate? Because it's getting us nowhere.
So that being said, I mean, are you voting? Have you voted already?
I did vote. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm still not gonna do it.
You're not gonna vote. You're not gonna vote.
I've never voted in a presidential election.
You've never voted in a presidential election. Okay, so it looks like we want to take the discussion from film to voting. Can we do a voter special?
A voter what?
Can we do a voting special? Because we have two opposing opinions, opposing views.
We can do it.
On voting. You don't vote. I vote. Let's do it.
Okay. You want to have a little debate right now? I'm gonna end this debate right now.
Not right now, no, because I don't have time. But because I want to dive into this, and this is an example. This can carry us into the next segment. Can two opposing views be able to kind of hack it out?
You seem to be doing a good job with it, but in my previous podcast, I feel like they were roasting me as soon as I was like, I'm not voting. They were like, what? Blah, blah, blah.
I can see, because again, I can see why, because it sounds very radical, but I'm here to listen and I'm here to offer my opinion. And that's what we will do in our next show, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I don't want to give too much away of my argument right now. But so yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I want to thank you all for watching. I guess the next one is gonna be a discussion on voting. Our next podcast, we're gonna skip the movie for the next one because this movie was just so great that it needs 2 episodes.
It does. The Last Supper, again, wonderful film, heavy film. It makes you think very deeply, and I'm so glad that we're gonna cover the topic of voting. Because November 3rd is, I think it's next week, 2 weeks from now. It's going to be November 3rd. So
we need to do this right away, just in case maybe you can convince me to go out and vote. I'm interested to hear your argument.
Well, I'm not going to try to convince you to vote, but I am going to just express my thoughts.
All right, that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. When people learn how to debate, we can kind of have some camaraderie without all the noise. So,
true.
Yeah. I disagree with you strongly for your choice of not voting, but we will get into that at our next segment.
All right. Sounds good. Why don't you, before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody again where they can find you at?
So Instagram, Belle Divino.
All right, you heard.
DM me. Well, don't DM me because I'll block you.
All right, sounds good. You heard it here first. If you need to reach out to any of us, you can reach me at the Gino Bino, of course. If we missed anything, if we got anything wrong, if you have your own comments on the movie, share down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
See you.